Hello, and this is like my third attempt to do this video because I find I made a mistake and then I have to go back and all this other stuff. So welcome. This video is going to be, well, first, before I start, I just should say I'm wearing my OG mask when the pandemic started today, not to promote mask wearing. Yes, this is a ski mask that I wear on the slopes, and I didn't have anything else, so this is what I was wearing at the beginning. And when I'm in places that I'm trying to be cautious, I'm a little bit more intense looking. So this is one of the reasons why I have a Baby Yoda mask now, because of how the early reactions to when I was wearing a mask. Let's see, remind me later. All right. So, anyways, so what I'm doing in this video is first, before I begin on that, I just want to say this is going to be a video. We're going to be switching things up because we're starting speeches. And so your discussion thread will be where you'll see information about our subject. And then our class days will be dedicated to the speeches. So our previous videos and this video is dedicated to your how to give a speech. We're going to be switching off, and where the class content is your actual speeches and the discussion thread videos will be the subject matter. Okay, so I just want you to know that going forward. If you get confused by next week's video, is because of that change. All right, so what we're doing today, we're going to be covering the outline that's supposed to be turned in. One class has to turn in this week. The other two classes next week. The reason why I'm covering this is I get a lot of questions. So I think just generalization of covering some things and showing a little bit more detail and giving you suggestions and so forth. Then I'm going to give you an example of a speech, an impromptu speech. And then finally, I'm going to give you talk about some speaking techniques on how to help your speeches and so forth. All right. And of course, the discussion thread on things like that. All right. So before we get the example speech, let's talk about your outlines again. So share screen and share. We're going to get to that. Now, just a friendly reminder, your outlines can be found on in files. And when you go to files, you will see the outline in PDF and outline in Word. And you can then take either of those and put it into your appropriate document generators or writing wherever you write in. And just to let you know on assignments, if you have problems, however you wrote up your outline, what you can, and you have problems saving it or putting it into, saving it and putting it into the file, what you can also do is just copy your outline in whatever document creator you use, and then paste it in the text entry option in your outline. All right. So in your outline future speech, there should be, when you submit the assignment, there should be a text entry possibility. Let's see. Yeah, so you can choose a file, or you can just copy and paste it into the text entry. Now, oh, here it is, text entry. Here you go, right here. All right. So lots of different ways to do it, and that's one. You can copy and paste it into text entry. All right, let me go back into files, leave. Okay, so, and I also wanted to show you this. This is the outline. I have it, when I type, I usually have it in 100, but I have it right now in 150 to show it close up. Now, what I also want to show you is my computer that I use here is just my media computer. It's my main computer, my desktop, my internet searches, and all that stuff is done here. My actual writing computer is this little guy that's over here. And so my Microsoft Word and Microsoft Office is on that one over there. And this one, I try to just have for, like I said, the media, the research, and the data, and so forth. But I have Microsoft Office up right now on this computer, even though it doesn't have Microsoft Office, because my LA Community College District profile gives me access to Office, and so does yours. So if you don't have Office, or you have problems with Google Docs or whatever, you can always get it through your profile. If you have problems getting Google Docs or Office on your computer. If you have technical help, you have the IT number that I put in your announcement last time. There are lots of different ways. So just to let you know, there's lots of different ways to type this up. Okay, enough of that. You should have been typing this up and so forth. I haven't got any students who would tell me problems with this, but I wanted to give you an idea of what you need to do and why you do it this way. So on the attention getter, so the background and this stuff is not done yet, but what if I wanted to do it, I would paste it, I would highlight it and then type in what I wanted to type in, okay? No time do I change this right here or this or this or this. The only thing I would be doing is filling in when the parentheses here is at, and that's it. And then you have this right here as an example, and that example shows you these quick sentences. Excuse me, sorry. It doesn't mean that you actually use those sentences, but it means that you have you as a speaker has a general idea of what you're about to say. So for example, if I go down here to my main point one, I wrote up, you remember I talked about being a film director back in high school. I wanted to be go into film. I wrote these 2 quick sentences. Growing up in a rough neighborhood, I always look for ways to escape. Visiting the local movie theater was a popular choice that is leading me to my future. All right? Do I have to say it exactly like that? Heck no. What you want to do is give you the ability to elaborate. So let me give you an example. I just read those sentences. So if I want to elaborate, I would say something like, when I look back into my past, I think about growing up in that rough neighborhood and what we would do to try to escape it. You know, taking trips whenever we can, going to my grandpa's on the weekend in Dinuba. And the most popular way to escape for my friends and I was visiting the local movie theater. And when I reflect upon that past, I know that it is showing me where my future lays by the thinking about my old neighborhood and how we would escape to the local theater. Okay, so you see what I did there? I gave a main point intro, I elaborated, and you notice at the end, I gave a kind of hint on the subpoints. The rough neighborhood, and subpoint 1 would be about the rough neighborhood, and subpoint 2 would be, which would be the community reference, and subpoint 2 was the going to the movie theaters. You see how that works? And the reason why you want to give you that flexibility and not to write out your speech is what happens is students who write out their speech will do this. I'm going to get out of the share screen to give you the example. They're giving their speech, and if they're writing it out, they're essentially doing this. And then I am not going to be looking up. I'm going to be reading my speech, and then I'm going to not look up and then read it out because I have to read every single sentence, every single word because I typed it out. That's not a good thing, all right? Another thing you do, and you know you've done this, we've all done this, is when you're reading a book or an article and you lose your place. Imagine doing that during a speech. If you write out your whole speech, you write out an essay or paragraph form, what happens is you lose your place. And I've seen students do this where they're just like, this outline, by having those bold little letters and stuff like that, you gravitate, your eyes go right to the section you're in. If you just have this in this basic form, this outline form. Another reason why you want to avoid it is whatever you're practicing, and we're going to talk about ways to practice a little bit later, but whatever you're practicing will be different on speech day. So I've had students who write out a whole ton of sentences, and then they shoot by it because they think they had to get through the sentences as fast as possible. And then they have all this extra time. Or you have students who think they're going to do it, and they read a whole lot of stuff, and then they realize their intro that should be about 1 minute, 15 seconds is 2 to 3 minutes. you want to have the flexibility of the outline. You want to be able to have those little sentences that you can elaborate on. Your timekeeper is your best friend. And by the way, we have the best timekeeper in the business in my class. We have the best timekeeper. Trust me. So I'll introduce you to the timekeeper. If you haven't seen him yet, this is the timekeeper. This is my Lego form. That's the timekeeper. All right? Best timekeeper in the business. Counting down. You'll be doing fine. It'll be easy. So keep an outline form, and I'll show you in a little bit how to convert. Okay? But I'm going to show you first how to get a class. So you want to be able to elaborate. That's why you want to do that. So to give you an idea of how long your speech is and how to practice and so forth, I'm going to give you an example of speech. Now, the example I'm about to do is going to be longer than your actual speech. And the reason why is because I'm messing around with these cards. And I'm doing it impromptu. So let's go back into share screen real quick. And we're going to go to, now I actually, the last time I was doing this and then I remembered I didn't do share screen. I actually was doing Painter as the last one I did. So if I do a random one that that doesn't show me something different or interesting, then I'll just use Painter again. But here we go, random. Ready? Let's see. Professional athlete. Okay, by the way, I'm not choosing anyone that students have done or tend to do, and I'm not doing any that I've done before in great detail. So compliance officer, I don't want to look that up. Environmental science, art director. They always suggest art director. Every single time I've done this, art director. Electrician, housekeeper. I haven't had a student who've done, I had students who've done professional athlete, which is the hardest profession to get into. Environmental scientist. I've had scientist students. Housekeeper. I had that, but well, actually, fun fact, when I was up working at that hotel in Yosemite National Park, I would earn extra money by working a 6th day and doing some housekeeping. And I was good because I folded the sheets like I did in the military. It was awesome. Anyways, so let's just do the Painter one. Let's get out of the share screen. All right. So through this example, it's impromptu. I thought of it this day. I tried earlier and I forgot I didn't do share screen. And I'm going to be using the outline as my marker, and I'm going to be showing you the sections I'm going through. I have my little computer right here as my timekeeper. Okay, we're ready. This is how this works, and to give you an example what these things actually do. And by the way, I will be doing commentary through it to kind of tell you this is the suggestion. All right, here we go. You know, I love 80s movies, not just because of my age, but because of, let me stop this. These are markers indicating the section. So attention getter, background, audience relevance, main point 3, main point 1, and so forth. All right. So that's what it is. And remember these initials, because these initials are going to be brought up again for the cue cards or the 4x6 cards. Very dramatic. All right, here we go. You know, I do love 80s movies, not just because of my age, but also because some of the life lessons you learn from it. And I think one of my favorite is the original Karate Kid, the wax on scene. And I always remember the part, you know, when he's painting up, you know, the upstroke, downstroke one. And maybe I'm thinking that because, you know, becoming a painter is a viable career where you can use a skill set of the technical skills with the artistic flair of design in the career as a painter. Oh, the background. And why should you care about becoming a painter? Well, because everyone here is thinking about their future and going through their career. You're here in college, and I know where I'm going. I know where I've been, and I've looked extensively into the career of becoming a painter. That is why I'm here to tell you that I will be a painter in the future. And that means becoming owner of a painting company that paints houses, buildings, or interior design. I'll first look into it with my inspiration in my past, then think about what I'm doing now to get there, and then finally what I'm planning to do in the future. Enough about what this is about. Let's go into the inspiration that got me where I'm going. That inspiration can be seen by looking in my past and thinking about all the influences that is pointing me into painting. I can think about how I was doing chores as a kid, and also the place I visited. When I was a kid, one of the first chores I ever got, major chores, was painting the shed. And it was a great endeavor because I had to, I was in charge of the job. I had to paint the sides and take breaks and have it done by the end of the day to get my allowance. And any time after that, I got to do projects, especially paint projects. I always went for those. And then when I traveled to another country, this involves my German heritage. My family on my mother's side is German immigrants. And I saw the design and the colors of the houses, or the traditional German houses, but with the modern flair of color. And I saw those beautiful things, and I said, well, how can I bring this back and do this in my own home? And that's what leads me now thinking about my inspiration. I think about what I'm doing now for that inspiration. I'm here in college, just like you. And why we don't have classes about how to paint in college, but painting needs a business. To be a painter, and be successful and have it as a career, you need to go into business. And that's why I'm taking college classes on business, and that's why I'm doing any job I can as a painter. First off, I'm taking business administration. I'm a business major, and I'm taking all the business classes, and especially accounting. And by the way, communication courses are important because you need to know how to talk to your clients. Wink. But that's me making suggestions on your speeches. Anyways, but I'm taking the classes I need to do. And then also, I'm working any painting job I can, even if it's a couple hours working in the paint department at Home Depot, I'm there. If it means volunteering to paint neighborhoods, paint over graffiti, I'm there. If it means taking any job, posting on Craigslist that I'll paint your shed, I'm there. These are the things I'm doing now. And what I'm doing now is leading me to my future. And that future involves a lot of steps I'm going to take. And the biggest steps I'm going to have to take is the business administration side, and it's building a reputation. First off, on the business administration side, I need to get loans. I need to have that degree to be able to know I have a structure, I have a pedigree that they're going to look at in that application. Plus, I need to be able to fill out the forms. I needed to have the permits and so forth. And then there's the design. You can't just be somebody who has the ability to paint. You need to have a reputation, not just someone who can paint and do the job successfully, but when they do the job right, and it's colorful and it brings light. And I want to bring a little bit of the aesthetic I brought from my past into the future. By the way, the German thing and what I just did now and in the main point 1 is an example of cultural references I made in the speech. And that leads, wow, this got up upside down. This leads, I talked enough about myself. Let's just wrap this thing up and go from there. I first talked about the inspiration that lead me to it, the classes I'm taking, and then also the steps I need in the future. And that is why I know I'm going to be a painter with a painter that owns his own business, that has a certain je ne sais quoi, or a certain aesthetic to them. I don't speak French, I speak German. Anyways, and oops, that's upside down too. And that is why I look back at Mr. Miyagi and I think about the life lessons he's had. And then when he tells me up, down with the stroke, I'll be like, yes, but you're going to have to pay me for it. Thank you. and have a good day. Now, I just did that. Now that was longer than 5 minutes, and the reason why I was messing around with the cards and it was impromptu. But I wanted to show you with the cards how this speech works. By filling in those things that are on the outline, it gets you through it. You only have to say a couple, each of these things in the outline are just a couple lines. But by doing that, it fills in the time. A lot of times students look at this thing or they think, I gotta write this whole essay out, when in reality, they just have to say these little sections. And if you feel like you are going too fast, you just take pauses. Doing this, every time I've done this, it always goes over. Not because I talk a lot. Okay, I do talk a lot. But it's because, you know, the managing of the everything and so forth. And by the way, I pointed out in the speech, I want to point out again, in the main point 1, I talked to German heritage. By the way, the shed and everything I said, that didn't happen. I mean, I painted as a kid, but and when I was overseas as a teenager, the first time, I was more interested in the other sites of the country, not the houses and how they're painted. But do you understand? By doing the German heritage immigrant thing, that was my culture community reference, the requirement for this speech, one of the requirements for the speech. All right. So make sure you look at that again. And I don't want you to focus on the time or what I said, but how each one of these things was covered in the speech and how that put the time for your speech. Okay, see how that works? Use the outline. All right, now let's talk about speech techniques and so forth. I'm going over into the internet again. Before I share screen, I'm gonna just look up somebody. So Chris, not the Chris's. This is probably a Chris you don't know, but he's the first like individual singer I gravitated towards. Looking for the, oh, there it is. Wiki's pretty good about this. One of the only times I recommend Wiki. Okay, so I'll go in the share screen. All right, here we go. So we're gonna go into share screen. So when I was a kid, a teenager, he's considered one hit wonder. He had other hits, but he's mostly known for Wicked Game. Chris Isaak. Otis Redding, a bunch of other singers are some of my favorites and so forth. But Chris Isaak was always the one that got me into the idea of following solo artists, because beforehand, I mostly listened to groups, either rap groups, NWA, or heavy metal, Motley Crue, GNR, stuff like that. When I was a teenager. And there was a lot of individual rap acts, but Run DMC, NWA, stuff like that. So the reason why I mention this is one of the speaking techniques that I tell students, and this is something I've told politicians to do too. If you have an allotted time, one of the things you can do is have a song playing in the background. And if you find a song of a favorite artist, that's the given time. So for example, when I was in public speaking, when I was first starting out, when I was in forensics and I had to do speech events, and when I would do practice, I would look for Chris Isaak songs because he has a tempo that was great to follow along. And then I would find songs, and he does. I had all his CD. I'm old. I had his CDs. I had his CDs when I was a teenager and in my early college years. And I would look up his songs that were certain times. And by doing that and playing that song in the background, you do a couple things. One, you feel a little bit at ease. By the way, you can find your own artist. I don't care who it is. Find your own artist, but find a song, and you might have to find 2 songs. But you feel a little bit, since it's somebody that you know and you love to listen to, you feel a little bit more at ease when you're practicing at home. Because you have that music. Put in your AirPods, you know? Do something like that. And just listen to, have it in the background while you're practicing your speech. You do 2 things. One, you feel comfortable with what you're doing. You get a flow, especially if it's an artist you like, and you feel a flow going through your speech habit. And then the second reason why is it's your time. It's your timer. So when you're practicing and you're going to speech and you're playing the song in the background, you know by after the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th time, at this junction, at the 3rd chorus, you should be wrapping it up. You should be doing this thing. It's a great timekeeper in your head when you're practicing. Because one of the things you don't want to do is practice your speech looking at a clock. If you're looking at a clock while you're practicing, that clock is not going to do the same thing. That clock, when you're speaking without everybody else, with everybody else watching, tends to go faster or slower. Don't look at the clock when you're practicing. It becomes an intimidator. Another thing you might want to do, I'll get out of share screen, is have the TV on or your computer screen on, especially any of those reality shows, competitions where they have the judges, and put it on mute and have, or anything with the audience, and practice your speech with a pretend audience. I would not, unless you trust the person, which rules out most family members, I would not practice in front of family or friends, because you might be afraid, or they might their personal feelings might jeopardize how you speak. So practice in front of a pretend audience. I feel sorry for my neighbors. Even when I had the house in Fresno, I felt sorry for my neighbors who would hear me practicing speeches out loud. So, but the thing is, practice. That's the most important thing. Practice. Have a tempo song to help your flow in the background, or practice in front of a thing. By the way, don't ever listen to those people who say, imagine your audience naked, because your audience someday might have your mother in it, and you don't want to be that person, all right? So lots of different social anxiety things. Now, I said earlier I was going to help you with cue cards and so forth. We're going to go over that in class, but I just want to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. So when you do your speech, you should not be using a written out paper. You should be using cards. I'm using you should be using note cards like this. And the reason why I advocate for the note, I have a blank one. A note cards like this is what you can do is those initials I told you earlier. You have your intro like this, and all you need to do is put those initials along the side. AG, background, BG, audience relevance, AR, speaker credibility, SC, thesis, TH, and then I put RM for roadmap, but you can put PM for preview main points. So yeah, this. That's it. And sorry, I'm not sick. I just need to drink water. And so the reason why you do that, and by the way, since we're doing this Zoom thing, you don't have to use a 4x6 card. You can have a giant cue cards. You can do the same thing with an 8.5 by 11, but don't type it out. Make it by a giant 4x6 card. If you want to do SNL cue cards in the back and have a family member, I don't care, but don't read off a paper with an essay-like speech. You want to avoid that, all right? But doing this helps. And now, example, remember earlier I showed you the attention getter with going down the long road? If you do keywords, like this, you might want to fill in like a sentence. I like keywords. So look at my attention getter. Intro, AG, long road, unknown trees. And you're sitting there going, what the bleep is that? That's not a sentence. That's not an introduction. Oh, I look at that and I go, you ever find yourself going down a long road and you're just, sometimes the trip is taking so long, it's like an unknown where you're going or where you've been. You look on the side, you just see the trees passing by. That's how I feel when I think about my future. Attention getter. That's it. You keyword outline on cue cards. You can have short sentences instead. Works like a charm. I'm not saying you have to do it this way. You can make your cue cards or your 4x6 cards whatever you want, but don't do the essay thing. Don't even print up your outline and read off your outline, because when you are holding a piece of paper, it's a psychological. Remember we talked about internal noise, psychological. When you have a piece of paper that 99% of the time you read off of, when you have something that you closely associate doing this to, you're not going to get out of that habit overnight. Cue cards, 4x6, not 3x5 cards are too small. Intro and so forth. And by the way, last piece of advice, and I'll answer questions and so forth. Do not try to memorize your speech. The biggest mess ups, I should say, I don't want to say another word I was thinking about, but the biggest problems, this, by the way, is literally the hair I had when I was in high school. Ridiculous. The biggest mistakes I've ever saw students do in a speech is when they try to memorize their speech. The biggest mistakes I've ever saw. The most problems. So just be aware. Don't try to memorize your speech. Keyword or quick sentence outlines are, when you actually give your speech, are the best way to go. So what I want you to do for your discussion question, your discussion participation, is I want you to go to your outline, take a section of it, your main point summary, a sub-point summary, nothing from your intro, because intro sentences are usually too, no, you could use your attention getter, not your thesis, not your preview, but you can use your attention getter, you can use your background. And I want you to choose two of them, a main point, a sub-point, attention getter, a background. And I want you to do two of them in keyword outlines. What keywords would you see that would associate with what you wrote on your outline? All right? Just give me two examples, a sub-point, a main point, a background, an attention getter of that, all right? And I'll give you an example in the discussion thread. All right. Hope this helps. If you have any questions, you know how to contact me. We have a class, and now you're converting your speeches. All right, don't stress out. It's actually quite easy. You're in the most comfortable place. And the most important thing about this speech is just make sure you follow the structure of the outline. Make sure you cover those points, and so forth. What's on there. I don't want you to freak out and think you have to do everything right the first time. Just cover all the basics. All right. Have a good day.